Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome to the Deep Thought. My name's Hasib, and let's get into the topic for today. Today I want to talk about something that I believe is vital, is crucial for us to think about, especially when it comes to our lives and how we look at it. And today I want to talk about dualities of our existence. I want to talk about dualism. And I want to start off by defining what dualism is. It's essentially two opposing aspects of a single concept. So with existence comes life and death, right? Those are simply two dualities of the same coin, of that stem from existence. So you can't have life without death. You can't have essentially nothing would grow on our beautiful planet if there wasn't any death to fertilize the ground and feed the plantation, the vegetation, all these things. But those are going to be the first two that we jump into. So I want to talk about life first. Because life is the reason that we're having this conversation in the first place in this reality of dualism that we are currently living. And I want to talk about what it is, what it means to live, to have life. And in a nutshell, I'll explain it this way. In a nutshell, life is sensation. Life and everything about it is about sensation. Another way to put it is probably pulsation, which is going a little bit deeper into the meaning of what sensations are, because pulsations are just little frequencies that are vibrating in the air, through the universe, through everything. And because of these little signals, we have sensations. We feel things. So, whenever you think about life, there's all these things that you have, such as the sensation of touch, the sensation of smell, and one of probably my favorites that I like is vision. The sensation of vision, the fact that we have eyeballs. Simply put, but this is just one aspect of the dualism that encompasses our universe. Keep in mind, I'm keeping this very very simple for right now, because this is a topic that I'm going to come back to. So anyway, the next one is obviously death. So that is what we would call the polar opposite of life. We would call death the other end of the spectrum, the duality of life. And we say that death is on the opposite end of the spectrum than life because of the lack thereof these sensations that we have in our life that we have right now. So when we think about death, we always assume that there is no sensation to it. That when you die, you will go away and you will never feel, anything else. You will never feel a sensation such as, the feeling of somebody else's skin, smelling a certain scent or perfume when you walk by a certain person, or even looking at people, just watching people, studying people, just looking, going through a crowd and seeing all these amazing things, people in a crowd. And you see, this is the duality that encompasses death. It's essentially the void of any type of sensation. It is the avoidance of any type of sensation, that the lack thereof, again, of any type of sensation or pulsation. Now that last one is what we believe, because we believe that once we die, we go into a form of non-existence for all time, which is a fallacy. We don't actually die and disappear into non-existence, because the energy that forms our bodies is a form of existence. Now, of course, we haven't figured out what consciousness is yet, but that's a whole nother story. So when you think about our existence, coming back full circle, when you think about our existence, you typically think about life and death, because these are probably the highest, the concept behind both of them encompass every other concept that exists in the known universe, because without life, we wouldn't have the capability to create the other concepts of existence, of dualism. We wouldn't have the capability to create even a concept of dualism if it wasn't for life. There again, we wouldn't have the capability to grow if we weren't able to die. We wouldn't be able to grow, not just as a society, but as the single organisms that we are, unless we die. Now that can also be taken metaphorically. That can be taken in such a way to understand that when a piece of you dies inside of your mind, it is obviously opening you up for something else, for something other than what you believed you were before. So anyway, let's get into a few more different dualities within our existence that are under the umbrella of life and death. Because remember, with unity, with dualism, I like to say, with dualism comes unity. So if there is a dualism or a duality behind any concept, then there is a unity between the opposition of the concept itself. So essentially, it is one thing, but we have decided to make it into two. So existence is one thing, it's just the one thing. We exist. Everything exists. The universe exists. Energy exists. All this stuff exists. And then we decide to take it and say there's life and death. The composition of something and the decomposition, decomposing of something. And that is what we call life and death. But remember, there are still two aspects of the same subject, the same concept, of the same thing. Two sides of the same coin, if you will, like most people use. But remember, it's still a form of unity. So when you think about these dualities, especially when it comes to life and death, another one stems from both, and that is essentially good and evil. We believe that life is good, and in our minds, we've made death absolutely horrible. We've made the idea of death absolutely horrible. The concept behind it absolutely horrible. Because when you think about how we preach it, not only in the pulpit, but in the mosques that I've been to, and I'm assuming many other churches, we talk about death in such a horrible way that it has to be evil. the concept of evil originates from death, or it has to, because we believe that, when we die, or we're taught this at an early age, when we die, if we are naughty, we will go to hell forever and ever, and we will burn and be tortured and be harmed for all eternity. We will go through excruciating pain that we will never have ever known about, and that we couldn't possibly fathom in this form of existence because because we deserve it, because we believe that because we have these tendencies, these neuroses, these things that make us who we are today, that make us the animals that we are, if we don't follow a set of rules, we will go to hell and be burned and tortured forever. Now that sounds pretty evil, right? And obviously we have behind evil, we have to put a face behind it. And the face that we put behind hell and that type of evil is the devil. Now this is still a concept. Keep this in mind. This is still a concept. This isn't real. This isn't the reality of the situation. So when we think about it from that perspective, we also have to think about life, the good side, the good thing, right? We look at it from the perspective that life brings joy, love, compassion, empathy, all these wonderful things. And then when we die, when we pass away, we go to a place called heaven. And we go to a place where our Maker is there, where we get to meet our Maker, where we get to be judged by our Maker, and all these other things. We get told that if we do the right things, if we do play by the book, if you will, that you will be chosen to go to heaven, to go into a place of just blissful existence. And obviously we had to put a face behind this as well to make it more appealing to the masses. We had to make this more appealing to everybody because it is still a duality of the same thing. It still stems from life and death. So in this form, we created God. We created the belief that there is something or someone waiting for us in the clouds, or even beyond the clouds into space, and so on, that is waiting to be our judge, to be our judgment for our lives that we've lived. And remember, Doug, they're both. These are both concepts stemming from the same idea: life and death, God and the devil, good and evil. They're still stemming from the same concepts. These are just dualisms. These are just things that exist because, one, we've created them ourselves. We have manifested them inside of our own minds as these concepts, and we've put the definitions behind each one. And that is because we are looking always to make an engineering perspective of the universe, because we don't understand ourselves. We don't actually know anything ourselves about it. That's enough of that. I know we got into the good and evil aspects of it. We got into the God and the devil because they all stem from the original two that we had mentioned, which is life and death, which originate from existence. So when you put it in those terms, keep in mind that every single one of those that I've mentioned, the dualities that exist that I have mentioned, are all the same. So this means life and death are one and the same. This means good and evil are one and the same. This also means that God and the devil are one and the same. Now, I know a lot of people aren't going to like that. People don't like to believe that. People don't want to believe that because we've been taught our entire lives how to think. We've been taught what to think, and we've been taught these concepts of the dualities of our existence our entire lives, as if they were authoritatively manifested by the universe for us to follow, which they weren't. So whenever you think about any of these things, like such as any type of duality, you'll start realizing they're essentially everywhere, in every form and every capacity. There is the idea, the concept of matter, and of course with matter comes antimatter, or what we would call the opposition of the concept. And antimatter would be the opposing concept, or the opposition of the concept matter. Just keep in mind, these are all concepts. There is another one, which is acceptance and rejection. These are two dualities that exist because we choose to believe that they exist, and we have chosen to create them. And what these dualities do is essentially formulate our reality right in front of us. So when you think about acceptance, you probably think about taking in information, taking in correct information or valid information, and creating something out of it. Rejection would obviously be what it is. You deny it. You want to deny whatever it is that it is. And see, these are all just dualities that exist in our world. And not just our world, but in our existence. Let me give you another example. Another example would be freedom and enslavement. Freedom and slavery. Would you be able to tell the difference between one or the other if you had either one? I don't think you could. I don't think any of us could. We wouldn't understand freedom if we didn't have slavery. Because under our definitions, freedom is the ability to do whatever it is that you choose to do, whatever you will. And I use that term in a sense of your will, not I will do this today, but true will. But you see, then you have the opposite side of that spectrum, which is slavery. So when you go into thinking about slavery, you think about oppression, you think about all these things that people are not able to do if you are enslaved. Now I'll go with one more, and this one's probably my favorite, which is flexibility and rigidity. I have a tough time saying that word. But flexibility and rigidity are two aspects of the same thing. Still, the opposing or the opposition of one another, of essentially still the same concept. Because flexibility allows you to move. Imagine a wiggle or just a wave like this. Whereas rigidity is very stiff, it's very hard, it's unmoving. And you can't possibly have one without the other. Because if you didn't have this, if you didn't have the flexibility, and all you had was the rigidity, how could you tell the difference? How could you possibly define one without the other? One is firm, and one is not. But you can't you can't know what is soft unless you know what is hard. All these different concepts are in our reality today. We just choose to ignore them. We have chosen to be ignorant to them. But you see, all of these realities exist. All these dualistic concepts exist within our dualistic existence. See, so you can't know what's soft unless you know what is meant by hard. You can't pick up a rock and think that a rock is soft unless you picked up a marshmallow and try to play with it in your hand. And you see, there's all these dualistic things in our existence that we wouldn't know about if one of the others did not exist in opposition to it. But that's where I'm going to leave this video. This is the dualistic reality that we live in today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys share this video with your friends. I hope this opened up your mind a little bit to see things a little bit differently. And if you guys have any comments or questions, please leave them down in the comment section below. I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and I will talk to you guys again later. Remember, I will bring this back up, and we'll have a conversation. Anyway, take care, guys, and have a fantastic week. Bye.